Hey guys, welcome back to Welcome Home Custom. Today we are going to learn how to make our fall-inspired archways. Let's get started. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into the file overview. If we open one of the files, we will see that we have backer, stand and frame, instructions, and design. Let's start by opening the instructions. It will review all of the files in the different colors that I used. Please note, if it states that you should be scoring, this is a line cut with a low power fast engrave. You do not want to engrave it. It will error out. Also note that it will ask you, if you have it selected on fill, if you want to close shapes for the scoring detail. Do not do that. It will cause a mess. There is a rundown of the supplies I used, along with a note on the different slot sizes, and then a file breakdown showing a screenshot example of the different files included in the file bundle. All right, so now what we want to do is hop into our backer file, and you'll see there is set 1, set 2, and set 3. They each have 3 or 2 sets total per file, but let's go ahead and go into the folder, and you're going to see a ton of options. First and foremost, we have no tab. This is if you wish to make the design not have a base and it would basically hang on the wall. Then we have all of these numbers. These correlate to the size slot that will be on the stand file. So as an example, 195 is the slot height, 0.195 inches. And then we also have a joined file for LightBurn users. Now, when we actually open the 195 file, here we can see that we have 3 different designs. We have our 1-inch square that we always like to double check. This is to make sure that nothing resized. When we open the SVG, we can go ahead and just select it and hit delete. We will also note that the tab is actually double the size of the slot. So I opened the 195 file, and what that means is this tab is going to go through 2 separate layers for the stand. For the line portion, we are going to want to score all of the black. So this needs to be set to a line function and not a fill. Your line, you're going to want to run at a fast speed and a low power. So as an example, I typically run my score setting at a 300 speed, and my power, I'll run at a 25 max and a 12 min. What it will do is it will follow along the line and it will mark the wood, but it won't cut it, but it also won't engrave it. If we were to try to engrave this, it will error out because the nature of a scored line, it is not a connected shape. Let's go ahead and remove off our backers and open up the stand and frame file. So again, we have 2 different folders because we have, once again, slot sizes. For the walnut, stand, and frame, if we were to open up the 195 folder once again, and we click on any of these and we say ungroup, we can see that the height of the slot is 195, or the width of the slot. And we will want to go ahead and cut this whole thing out to make 8 sets or 8 designs total, which is the entire file bundle. Let's go ahead and delete this off and open up the mahogany file. Again, sorted by number. And if we open up the 195, This is the second stand, and then all of the bow ties. You can grab a material measurement tool over at welcomehomecustom.com. That is probably the easiest thing to do. You will just cut the tool out of wood that you plan on using. You can use this tool over and over again anytime you use this type of wood. And then you're going to take your wood that you plan on cutting the backer out with, and you're going to slide it into the different slots on the measurement tool, and it will give you an idea of what size slot will fit tightest with the wood you are using. Let's go ahead and go over to the design folder. In the design folder, we have a couple of different options. We have first and foremost, all one piece. This is, like it says, the cutout is all one piece. And if you didn't want to do all of the separate woods, you could just use this instead. And you can just use this instead. Another thing you can also do is you can use these graphics and resize them. You could use them on round signs or any other type of application for products that you plan on making. We also have kerf and no-kerf. Kerf, I've added a 0.002 inch offset to every piece to make them fit tighter. No-kerf, I've not added any offset whatsoever. The no-kerf is for someone that already knows their kerf and wants to go ahead and apply their own. You will also note that I have it sorted two different ways. I have it by wood, and then I also have it by set. So by set, it's going to have all of the set one on the same file. And then within that, I will have the colors noted that I used. So let's go ahead and open this up so we can see it a little bit better. So for the witch, I used cherry for this section. I used mahogany for the broom and her hair, maple for her face and hand, and then walnut I used for her dress and her hat. Or for the pumpkin and ghost section, I used cherry for the pumpkins, walnut for the stems, and maple for the ghost. Note that I do have them somewhat arranged to follow wood grain. So as an example, I wanted my wood grain running top to bottom on the pumpkins. So I flipped them sideways, assuming that our wood grain is going to run from left to right when we go to cut in our laser. And so that is why some of these are rotated or flipped. The other way we can look at our design pieces is by the wood itself. So if you wanted to cut out the entire set, I actually have them sorted by wood. So here is the cornucopia, the pumpkin, harvest, the ghost, the witch, and the sunflower, but they're all cherry. So that is just another example of how I tried to make it a little bit easier for you guys in sorting all of the files. Let's go ahead and hop on over to assembly. So we're going to do a quick overview of every design offered in the bundle. So every design is going to have the backer, along with the walnut frame or whatever wood you decide to use, and the 3 different bow ties that hold it all together. Next, I like to grab some blue tape, and I am going to stick the frame together so that I can flip the whole thing over and expose the back. Next, I'm going to grab my Titebond wood glue, and I'm going to dab it onto the frame using my silicone brush, just getting it thoroughly coated so that we can then flip it back over and glue it to the backer. I like to add a couple dots of Starbond glue and spray the backer with accelerator. This will create a quick instant bond for the Starbond glue while the Titebond glue is still drying. Next, I'm going to line up the components of the flower with the backer. Now, when we get to the portion with the petals, It is a little tricky, but you're going to want to look for the similarity of the center. That will help you line things up a little bit better. Place it down, and then we will repeat the same process with the center, looking for that similarity and popping it into place. Now, I like to go ahead and use my blue tape once again to tape it as one solid piece, flip it over, add glue, and place it back down. We can go ahead and set this over to the side and grab our next design. Now, I am working in order of what I think is the easiest to glue together to the hardest to glue together, so just keep that in mind as we go along. I'm also going to go ahead and skip over the frame part of each of these because it's really redundant, and I'm just going to show you the different pieces of the different designs go forward. So the skull and raven are pretty self-explanatory, I think, just 2 pieces, and I went ahead and added just the glue to the back of the cut pieces and not to the backer itself, just so that I made sure I didn't get glue in spots I didn't want exposed on the backer. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the jack-o'-lantern and the ghost file design. We can go ahead and add tape to the pumpkins and the stems to remove them as one piece, or we can remove them separately. Either way works. Go ahead and add glue to the ghost as well and place it down, and we can move on to the next design. The next one we're going to do is the floral harvest, or the pumpkin harvest, or floral pumpkin. I can't remember what I called it. So there are score lines to help figure out where the different pieces will go. Just try to line them all up first. And then again, we will add blue tape to hold all the pieces together. So then we can glue it all as one solid shape. So next we're going to go ahead and do the haunted house. This is probably one of my favorites. It can be created many different ways. We could just add the mahogany layer of the house and that's it, and stop there. We could add just the bats with the house, or we could add the second layer of the house, or we could even take it one step further and even add the additional bushes. This can be really styled however you wish to. The other thing that you should keep in mind is you could resize this and make it something bigger. Maybe it could go on a door round or something like that. So have fun and get creative with it and just enjoy the process. Now, the witch is similar in that you don't have to use all the pieces if you don't want to. You could leave the moon as cedar, but I did find that it made it easier to hold her face and everything in place. So that's why I opted to cut the moon out of cherry. I'm also adding all the glue to the backer first. This is going to make placing the smaller pieces a lot easier, because they'll have something sticky to hold onto so that you're not dealing with pieces that keep falling down out of place. I suspect there will be some cuss words said when putting this together, and I apologize, but I think it's worth it, and I think she looks great once it's all done. Now, this is a perfect example of the row of houses really is totally optional. I think it looks great actually as cedar, but I had already made the file with the cherry cut out, so I went ahead and added the cherry cutout as well. But you can omit that if you wish. And now on to the cornucopia. Again, similar to the fall harvest, I'd place all of the pieces and then tape so that you can flip it over and add your glue all at once. You'll note that I have scored the back again just to make it easy for you to determine where those pieces should go. And then once again, we are going to line it up and set it over to the side. Moving on to our last design, which is by far the most difficult. Now you will note that I have actually numbered the leaves, and you will want to write that number on the back of each leaf as you cut them so you know where they go. I did not, and I will tell you that it was very tricky to figure out where the leaves went. So please make sure you number them. Now that they're roughly where they should go, I'm going to go ahead and add tape and tape it all together and flip it over. Next, I'm going to dab glue all over the backer, trying to get most of the branches and leaves covered, but I don't want to get into that archway too much, so keep that in mind. Next, we'll go ahead and grab our tree and owl and leaves and place it back down. We're then going to carefully pull back the blue tape. Now, I know that some of the leaves are not going to stay in place. They're going to kind of want to pop up, but your wood glue is still wet. So you should be able to work with it for about 10 minutes or so before it really bonds and adheres into place. Now that it's all somewhat placed down on there, you can go through and finesse the tree, finesse the leaves, add the tail to the owl, and get it all perfectly lined up. Again, I'm sure that someone will cuss my name a few times when trying to make this file, but I do think it's absolutely adorable once it's done, and I think it's one of my favorites in the set. Now that all of the backers are glued up and done, we just need to add the stand. You will want to grab the stand without the score line first. That goes on the bottom. And then the stand with the score line goes on second. And there is your finished piece. Now, if you need to, you can always add glue to your wood and make it a little bit more sturdy. I typically make my slots fairly tight, and so I rarely have to add glue, but I am, for demonstration purposes, adding some Star Bond with some accelerator and pushing the stand together. All right, guys, that's it. Hopefully you found this tutorial helpful. Make sure to subscribe and check out more tutorials just like this. Thanks so much.